happen as soon as today. Understand that we had over 200 law enforcement officers, agents on the scene. There will be a lot of documentation, a lot of reports, a lot of evidence generated as a result of this investigation. My office will have to review that to determine the appropriate charges. That will take some time. This is an office with one elected district attorney and 2 assistant district attorneys.
So what's going to happen today?
Murder now?
Why not capital murder now? Because the benefit to capital murder is a no bond, and a $5 million bond was a practical no bond in this situation.
So what happens today?
So what happens today is magistration. Okay, magistration takes place in the jail, where a judge sits down with a defendant, goes over his rights, determines whether there's probable cause to keep him in jail, and either reinstates or amends the bond as he deems necessary.
What will determine if it is upgraded to capital murder?
That will turn on the facts, just like any other case, whether or not it meets the legal elements for capital murder.
Are there something you're looking for specifically? Can you give an example of?
For instance, capital murder would be an offense. Murder that's committed in the commission of a felony, the murder of multiple people in the same criminal incident, or the murder of a child. Yes, sir.
The one murder charge that's been filed so far, is it in relation to one of the specific 5 victims?
Yes, that's correct.
Which of the victims?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which one.
It's not the child, though?
I couldn't tell you exactly which one.
What about the other suspects arrested and helping hiding?
That's correct. Those they have been. I believe there may be one in custody in Montgomery County. There's one in Montgomery County, I believe. I'm not sure. Like I said, this happened at about 1 o'clock this morning.
How many here?
One here in San Jacinto County.
Yeah. How many were arrested in San Jacinto County?
One here in San Jacinto County.
Okay.
One in Montgomery County.
Can we get a name on the person in San Jacinto?
I'd love to give that to you, but I don't know if I could give that off the top of my head.
What details can you tell us about that person?
I believe that person is associated with the defendant as his wife, the one that's going to be here in San Jacinto County. No, I take that back. That's incorrect. In Montgomery County is, yes.
Sorry, can you step up? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So the individual who is in custody in Montgomery County, that is going to be his wife, Miss Nava. There is an individual, and I don't have his name correct, so I don't want to hazard a guess, who is associated, a friend or an acquaintance. He's booked here in San Jacinto County Jail. He was booked in last night under possession of marijuana charges. We expect those charges, additional charges, to be filed.
What was his role in hindering?
The investigation so far indicates that he was assisting Mr. Oropeza in fleeing the neighborhood where the crime took place.
Do we know how? Do we know how? Like in the car?
I don't know the details. Yes, sir?
Can you specify a little bit more about the relationship? I know you mentioned that she was the wife. Is she officially the wife? Is it they just have like a
I don't know. There one of the struggles during this investigation has been there's not a lot of documentation on a lot of things. That's one thing that we're developing. I don't know if he's common law, or they've actually in fact been married, but they were living together as husband and wife.
What's the official charge for the person who is here that was arrested in San Jacinto County?
He was booked in last night under a possession of marijuana misdemeanor B charge.
So nothing in relation to the actual?
Not yet. That investigation is ongoing, and we expect there to be additional charges filed.
What will be the charge for that?
The investigation's ongoing.
Where was he
the
found?
wife? Go ahead.
Where was he found?
Mr. Domingo,
Yeah.
I believe he was in the neighborhood of Trails End, but I would have to verify that with my officers.
And where was the wife taken into custody?
She was detained at the scene where Mr. Oropeza was found.
Wait, apologies for the redundancy. He's being held on a misdemeanor or a possession of marijuana charge.
Mr. Domingo is.
Well, what led you to say, he should be charged in connection with it?
That there was information developed from our investigation that led us to believe that he had a part in doing that. Okay, and that's about as far as I can go right now.
Will you handle the Nava case? Will the Nava case be brought back here, or will her case be handled in Montgomery?
That it's too early to tell. I need to know what the basis of the charges would be and where they took place. If they took place in San Jacinto County, we'll handle it.
Domingo, guys.
I'd love to tell you, man, but I don't have it right now.
No first name in it?
That is his first name, is Domingo.
Domingo's his first name.
Correct.
Last name.
I want to say Castilla, but I'm not positive.
Is that going to be listed like?
He's in our jail roster, and my understanding
So
he's on the jail roster. And my understanding is that Chief Keen is working on getting y'all a jail roster.
Do you think there will be other people arrested or charged with helping Ms. Mr. Oropeza over the last few days?
We are reviewing all evidence that leads in that direction. I don't have any targets identified at this time, and if they are targets, unfortunately I can't disclose that information until we feel like we have enough to go forward.
When did Miss Nava stop cooperating with police?
Miss Nava appeared to be cooperating up until the time when we arrested her.
When you say appeared to be cooperating, you mean like she was like talking to you at the same time that she was talking to him, trying to help him?
We believe so.
And how long was he inside that house hiding out?
We don't know at this point.
Just to be clear, it is two that have been arrested
In connection with this case, yes, ma'am.
So just explain to us, like, what was his wife doing? I mean, like, she's talking out of both sides of her mouth, essentially talking to you guys, cooperating, quote unquote, but you believe she's also talking to him. Explain that.
So what we believe that Ms. Nava was doing is that she was providing him with material aid and encouragement, food, clothes, and had arranged transport to this house.
Even while she knew that her husband was clearly the target of a criminal investigation.
That's correct.
Did at any point she tell you that he wasn't in the home when he actually was?
I don't believe so, because the connection with Ms. Nava to that home only happened immediately before the CID and BORTAC arrived on scene.
Was Domingo in the house when?
No, ma'am, not that I'm aware of.
So Nava was in that house where you.
That she was at the scene or at the residence, somewhere on the residential property. I don't know if she was outside or inside or something different, but she was at that scene.
Whose house was that?
I'd love to tell you, but I don't have that information offhand.
Has Oropeza confessed?
I can't go into that. As you understand, I'm a prosecuting attorney for this case to stay in my county. I can't go into the further details of this investigation beyond what affects public safety to maintain the integrity and ensure that this case stays in San Antonio County. I have legal obligations as an attorney that prevent me from going into things that may be pretrial publicity. So, unfortunately, guys, there's going to be certain things I'm just going to say I can't go into that.
Can you say he's been talking to investigators, or has he just not even said anything?
You guys, pretty much at the point where he gets arrested, I have to kind of.
To the extent you can't actually comment on this from a prosecutor's standpoint, how concerning do you find that there were calls about this man's house discharging a firearm, and that it doesn't appear that any records were ever run indicating that he's been deported 4 times?
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Sure. You're saying that calls were run and he wasn't deported?
Yes. In the course of whatever the time frame may be, according to Sheriff Capers, there were multiple calls about Oropeza discharging his firearm in this property, right? This dates back however long.
Okay.
And now we're finding out that it took years for this entire situation to bubble up when there were calls already made. Okay. Why did no one who received that call ever run his information to find out his status?
Every encounter with a law enforcement officer and a citizen is contextual. So, I mean, we're not in a country where everybody says, show me your papers on every contact. So I don't know the details of those individual contacts, because an individual contact with a law enforcement officer may or may not result in a case that's filed with my office. I don't know the details of those contacts, so I can't speak in an educated manner to those contacts.
Point of clarification. You said his wife arranged transport to the house where he was caught. So are you suggesting that he was taken there by?
I don't know if she physically took him to that. What I was saying is, I believe she either provided or arranged some transport out of the neighborhood. That falls within material aid or encouragement. So I don't know the details of whether she was the person who physically took Mr. Oropeza to that house, but we are fairly confident in the fact that we filed charges that she was providing aid at that time where she knew he was a known subject.
Have you spoken with him in the jail?
No, that's not appropriate for a district attorney to interview.
Are they being represented? Are they being waived their rights?
Again, I can't get into what somebody did with their rights that would be a violation of my pretrial publicity. Attorneys at this point, nobody has filed a letter of representation with my office for Mr. Oropeza.
Is it clear at this point that she stayed in the general vicinity around the home, like didn't travel like an hour out of town, for instance?
It's not clear. It's not clear, no sir. So I couldn't say.
And either she or this other friend was providing him rides in the neighborhood, or did they ever give him like a vehicle for him to drive himself around?
I don't believe so, but I don't have a lot of details in that information. I have no information that a vehicle was provided to Mr. Oropeza.
Do you know how she was being surveilled? Was she at the house at the time of the arrest, or did she come later and that's when she
I believe she was at the house at the time of the arrest. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how she was being surveilled?
Again, that goes into law enforcement tactics, and I can't get into that.
The first day when there was a false alarm, I guess out of Montgomery County, and it turns out he actually was spotted, was Domingo present then helping him? What was his role at that time to get him?
You know, we had multiple tips that, and our officers, fortunately in this situation, we had the manpower to actually run down every tip. So there's multiple tips on that. I'm not aware of I believe it's Mr. Castella being present at any of those scenes. That's Domingo Castella, I believe. But he will. Again, I would encourage you all to look at the jail roster to get his correct spelling on his name.
Sorry, and the sheriff last night said that there were 5 murder charges filed.
Well, like I said, there was a lot of moving parts at that point of the investigation. At the point when our focus is obtaining a suspect who's a danger to the public, there may be some crossed wires on details, but we were all on the same page about what needed to happen. So that may or may not have been a misunderstanding, but
It's definitely one.
there is one arrest warrant for Francisco Oropeza, and it's for first-degree felony murder with a $5 million bond.
Sir, again, sorry for the redundancy, but the next steps for him after he's magistrated on the charge.
That's correct.
Is an appearance before a district judge, right?
It may be before a district judge, it may be before a justice of the peace. Like I said, that depends on staffing levels, who's on call, and that sort of thing. So, if and I'll come to you in 1 second, ma'am. Just to kind of explain, San Jacinto County is kind of a relic of the old Wild West days. We share a circuit court system. So that means the 411th and 258 district courts. They represent, they are judges who go to the to San Jacinto County, to Polk County, and Trinity County. So they are running dockets, they are running trials, they are running all kinds of business before a court in 3 counties throughout the week. So that's a logistical issue. It'll depend on availability.
You guys investigated
And hang on, I'm gonna come back to you in 1 second. Yes, ma'am.
The house where he was arrested was his sister's?
There is some information out there to that regard. I have not confirmed that yet.
Will more people be arrested in helping him?
It depends on the willingness of these people who observe this to come forward. We encourage that. I would say that the Trails End community, the residents there, have been overwhelming in their support and their in this investigation. They were very cooperative with law enforcement. Everybody was on the same page. This guy needed to be taken into custody.
Well,
So,
one of the tipsters, were they your neighbor?
I'm sorry?
Was the tipster the neighbor?
I don't know that at this time.
He ditched his phone, but yet was still in contact with, I guess, the woman we're referring to as the wife. How did he maintain in contact with her? I know the sheriff last night said there was a second cell phone, but was that his phone? Was that a burner phone that he got at a nearby 7-Eleven or something?
So it's a little early to determine whose phone belonged to who, but we did recover multiple phones at the scene where we arrested Mr. Oropeza.
And do we know where he was, let's say Sunday, when he was talking to his wife?
We don't have a timeline of where Mr. Oropeza went immediately following the shooting. That's one part of our investigation we'll be working on in the days and weeks to follow.
But even if there's not a timeline, do you at least know, okay, we know that he had spent time clearly at his house, in the woods, and maybe, for instance, at a stash house, for example. Do we have that at least?
No, sir, I don't have enough to confirm or deny that. Yes, sir.
Will he remain here?
Yes.
Will he be in custody?
Yes.
Were there any weapons recovered?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you expecting Nava to be in court today?
No, ma'am. Like I said, no one will be in court today. People will be magistrated, but that takes place in a secure facility in the jail. So no one will be in court. And also, because I believe this will probably be several questions, our office does not do information filings that brings a suspect to court in the days or weeks following an arrest. Our policy here in San Jacinto County is his case will be presented to a grand jury after he's indicted, then he will be placed on a docket. Our grand juries meet once a month with the flexibility to come back sooner than that. Our next grand jury will be at the end of May. So, not saying that Mr. Oropeza will be indicted by that time. Our deadline as far as indictments in the state of Texas, if a defendant is incarcerated and they are not indicted within 90 days, they're released on PR bond. From the DA's, from my perspective, that's the deadline that we're looking at right now. So
The
Can we get a
address
few
of the
facts
home.
cleared on something on the timeline?
it depends. Go ahead.
What you can share, sorry. In terms of how he got out, we know he got out the neighborhood. Someone sent transportation. We just don't know who took him out.
Well,
Who sent it to him?
I don't know if Mr. Oropeza fled the neighborhood on foot, was picked up and delivered somewhere else. We don't know that right now. Like I said, our focus has been to get Mr. Oropeza in custody. At this point, we'll be able to go back and investigate information that we flagged during the manhunt and be able to get a further idea of what the timeline is, where he was and who he spoke to, and potentially who assisted him.
But you mentioned earlier that transportation was supported.
I believe so, based on the distance to the house.
But we don't know when and
Right. That's
who
just
or how.
I'm just extrapolating from how far the house was from the neighborhood, but I don't know for sure.
The address of the home is listed in the order of protection that Ms. Nava filed in June of 2022. So with that address that's public record, how many times did law enforcement from the time of the shooting happen, how many times did they go to that home looking for him?
As far as I'm aware, that was an early address that was provided to our analysts as a target. I don't know when the earliest officer made there. Like I said, this is a manhunt that wrapped up 6 hours ago, or probably longer than that, 10 hours ago. I haven't had a chance to run through all of the call logs and everything like that. Our priority was just getting him in custody. That will be information that we'll be investigating further later on.
And going off of that, when his wife called said he apparently beat her up, was he arrested?
At that point, I believe the call logs in that that attached to the protective order state that she had called for a report for a restraining order. So at that, and she also advised that she did not want EMS at responding to the scene when she called that report in. You're referring to the June 22 case date? Yes. So my understanding is that she called to have a report for a restraining order. That was what the call was.
So he wasn't charged?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so y'all, at no point there was a way for you guys to check him through ICE?
I'm sorry.
There was no way to check his immigration status?
Typically that happens when somebody's in custody. When she called, he was no longer at the residence, so he wasn't in custody. We had additional, when the protective order was filed, we also had a constable looking for him at that address. The constable made several attempts over the course of weeks to make contact with him and was not able to make contact with Mr. Oropeza.
Is there any indication what his plans were from that home?
I can't speculate to what he was thinking at this point, just not to get caught. That's about it.
Was his son at the home when he was arrested?
Not that I'm aware of, no ma'am.
And regarding the Montgomery sighting on Monday by the landfill, Chief Keene just said that they confirmed that was actually him.
Okay.
Montgomery Sheriff's Office was not aware of that. Can you kind of explain, how do we know that was actually him?
250 officers rolling full speed. There's going to be some cross wires on who may or may not be there. That'll be part of our timeline that we investigate to see if that was actually him at that point. But
It's not totally confirmed.
I can't confirm it at this point. No, ma'am.
Sir, I didn't get your name. I rolled up a little.
That's right. Todd, T-O-D-D.
Yeah.
Dylan,
Todd.
D-I-L-L-O-N.
Double check.
No problem.
And when will Nava go before a judge?
Like I said,
When-
magistrations typically take place within 24 to 36 hours. That's our policy. So somewhere in that time frame.
So she's being taken to this jail and then she'll be magistrate here?
I'm not for sure about that. Last I saw that she was actually booked into the Montgomery County Jail.
I'm
That
saying, is she going to be transferred here since it's your case?
I don't know for sure yet. The issue in that case would be the target site where Mr. Oropeza was captured is actually in Montgomery County. So depending on the way you looked at it, depending on the facts that we developed from the investigation, she may have hindered in the venue of Montgomery County. She may have hindered in the venue of San Jacinto County. If there were if there's sufficient evidence to prove both, then we could look at both charges. But it's a little early to say that right now. At this point, we know that she was in Montgomery County at the point where she committed the offense, that portion of the offense of hindering. So that's where she's booked.
What time was Domingo arrested?
I want.
Before or after?
It was after. Yeah.
If convicted, how much time is she looking at
So hindering apprehension is a third-degree felony in the state of Texas, so that's a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 10 years TDC.
Because of what happened and because he killed as many people as he did, is there any chance that goes higher?
At this point, the only way for that to go higher would be if she was named as a party to the offense, and there's no evidence that she gave him material aid or encouragement in committing the offense. So no, it's unlikely. It's likely to stay at a third-degree felony.
And when was and she was at the home when this happened?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So many of us were at the scene yesterday, and there was a truck entering and leaving the residence. Was that the wife taking care of the pets and the livestock?
You're going to have to be more specific about what residents are.
The suspect's house.
Suspect.
Okay. I don't know that for a fact. It may have been. We have the capability to confirm that. At this point, I haven't been able to speak with the investigators to see whether that was the case.
When would it happen if the charges are upgraded? How quickly?
As far as a complaint could be filed at any time.
So now he charges murder. When could he be charged with capital
Right.
murder?
What I was saying is a complaint that actually charges somebody with a new offense that can be filed at any time by our office. By the sheriff's office on a sworn affidavit by a peace officer.
Pardon my ignorance, does capital murder have to be run through a grand jury?
All felonies in the state of Texas have to be run through a grand jury. Yes, sir.
We saw her truck driving out of the house that it appeared to have towels and other sorts of debris just covering the back window so you couldn't see inside.
Mm-hmm.
Any indication that he may have been just lying down in the back seat, driving him, the windows blocked out?
Right. At this point, I don't know. Like I said, I would like to give you guys transparent, accurate information, and I just don't know. I don't know the timeline yet. That'll be certainly of interest of us as we look at charges on Ms. Nava. But as you can imagine, our main priority is making sure that Mr. Oropeza faces justice. So that's our priority. As far as Ms. Nava and Mr. Castilla, and I apologize, guys, if I'm getting that name incorrect. It's been a long couple of days, and I don't remember every name that I encountered in this investigation.
Did he have any plans to go to Mexico? Do you know?
I don't know yet. No, sir. I can't confirm or deny that. No.
So the FBI did go to the suspect's home on Monday. We saw them there. We believe it was her who was there with that black truck. Did they interview her?
There were several interviews of Miss Nava. Several. So it may have been Monday. It probably was. There was probably contact via cell phone throughout. So there were several contacts with Miss Nava. So it wouldn't surprise me that she was interviewed on Monday.
But do you think she was trying to play both sides of the fence, help her husband and help you guys? And
I mean, mind dos centavos, my opinion, yes. But I can't say for sure.
I like her.
What is your message to the victims' families? And maybe some of them are saying, why isn't it capital murder yet?
Well, they're at the time, like I said, the only benefit to filing capital murder would have been a no bond. We were very sure that we were good with a $5 million bond securing his president once he was captured. My message to the victim's family is just this: that the wicked flee when no man pursues, but the righteous will be as bold as lions. And the righteous showed up this week. This is an unspeakable murder, unspeakable tragedy. But Mr. Oropeza will be held accountable. And I want to be able to look that family in the eyes and say that justice was done at the end of this.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Right? He was ready for the closure, man. He was ready for the closure.
We're supposed to get that.
God, it felt like a movie scene there at the end. Like a Tom Hanks.
Okay. You just let me know.
Hey, we're getting ready to show Matt in front of camera. And can you turn the IFB volume all the way